All right, you guys, before we get into today's episode of the pod, you guys have to subscribe because I'm looking at you and you are not subscribed to the channel yet. And also you have to hit the notification bell because you're not going to know when I post if you don't have notifications when I post. And then also share the video, you guys, so all your family, friends, anybody you may know can tune into this podcast. And then also like the video so I know you guys are liking these episodes. And then also comment down below who you guys would like to see on this podcast. It could be anybody. Just let me know. And then also follow my social medias. I'm going to pop them on the screen so you guys can stay up to date with everything to do with this podcast. And then also check out the Spotify version as well. It's going to be in the description. So click that link if you want to listen to the Spotify version. And then also the take.sport.blog. I am a sports writer. So go ahead and check out those articles. If you guys do not click that link, you guys are going to be missing out on some of the best articles you'll ever read. So make sure to go click that link below. But let's go ahead and get into this pod, you guys.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Take Podcast. I am your host, Jackson Burleson, of course. And today I got Jeremiah on the pod once again.
Oh, how we doing, guys?
Number 3, UFC/boxing talk. I'm going to go ahead and get right into this. With Conor McGregor, I've got a very important thing to talk about. First of all, I don't know if you saw the video, it was like 2 days ago, of him almost getting hit by a car while he was on a bike. He was like recording it like afterwards. I don't know if you saw that. He said he like almost died or something.
I didn't see that, no.
Yeah, it was he seemed actually frightened.
What did he
surprisingly.
post it on?
He put it on Instagram. I think he put it on Instagram. And he was like, it was like right after the guy was like standing, like kind of like away from his car. And like McGregor's bike was like on the ground. And McGregor was like, man, like I almost just died. Like, and the guy was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, holy cow. That's crazy itself.
I don't know why you do that. Because it's just like it's a bad like publicity stunt, you know?
I don't know. Like, I mean, he continues to make himself look bad over and over and over again since he's had his injury. And, you know, beating a girl up on your yacht for your birthday is not really a great way to do that. He did that last July. There's like a report. Apparently the girl was like saying like all this stuff about like him like punching him in the face, like lunging knees in him. And then like she jumped off the yacht with just her bikini on and left her phone, left her all her valuables there. That's how scared she was, which is pretty crazy to hear that because she apparently went in the VIP booth prior to being on McGregor's yacht. And then McGregor, like all of a sudden she said she was like being threatened and like he got really aggressive and she had bruises like on her face. Like there were clear pictures of it. So I was like, oh man, like this isn't going to be good for him at all. And then Dana pulls Conor aside of the USADA poll, which is the drug testing, which is a red flag to me because I don't think he's going to be fighting in 2023. And I don't think he's going to be fighting in the octagon ever in his career. I think he's done. I don't think he's ever going to get back to where he was. I don't see him ever stepping foot. He's not hungry. I've said this before, but it's just looking more prominent that he's not going to step in the octagon at all.
Yeah, and I can see that point of view. To be honest, I hope it doesn't end up that way. I would love to see Conor fight again. But when it comes to the world of sports, you have two types of athletes. You have the ones that reach their peak, and that's it. They're done. Mentally, physically, they're done. Or whether it's with a bunch of lawsuits and, you know, potential arrests like Conor.
Yeah, just bad press in general. You can't have the bad press because as soon as you start getting the bad press, it's very difficult for it to go away. And you have to do a lot of adjusting in your life. But you were mentioning peak performance. I would say Conor is definitely a peak athlete because he had his peak with Mayweather and all the boxing stuff when he was the double champ. I would say that's probably the highest he's been in the UFC, and he's never going to get to that mountaintop ever.
No, but you also, for instance, think of Kobe Bryant, right? Kobe, no matter how many lists of top 10 greatest basketball players he was in, he was always hungry. He treated every single game like it was the first, and he had something to prove. And you have a lot of these athletes that are like that. And that's why I say there's usually two types of different athletes. And I feel like Connor falls into that first one because this guy came from nothing. He didn't have much. He had a very humble beginning.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I want to say, almost single-handedly doubled, tripled the amount of pay-per-view views the UFC had.
Yeah, he brought like casual eyes over.
He is a polarizing figure. So he brought in so much attention. He brought MMA mainstream. And once I feel like he got a taste of that, and with his other companies too, he got so much money from everything.
Well, his whiskey business, like Proper 12, that's like official whiskey of the UFC now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's kind of like, he's tied in. I mean, that speaks for itself because he's got money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't see a reason for him to step in there anyways. He's already done everything that a UFC fighter aspires to do.
And that's my point, is he's made so much money that he's done. You know, it's I can understand that logic of
But
why you think he won't get
It's
into a ring
tough
again.
to see a guy of his caliber and knowing the potential that he still does have, that, you know, he's kind of getting distracted and going off the rampage a little bit and kind of just, you know, doing uncharacteristic things. Like, I really didn't see the yacht incident really coming. I just didn't see it happening at all.
Do you think, let me ask you this, do you think this is his personality, or do you think this has to do with he's such a polarizing figure, he's been such an a top caliber athlete that to him it doesn't matter, he can get away with anything? Because he did get away with that one arrest. Maybe didn't get away, he had to pay a fine, but it could have been a lot worse, especially with the Dolly incident with Khabib. He could have landed prison time, but he didn't.
I mean, if you say it that way, I would say personality.
Personality, okay.
Because, I mean, he has said and does continue to do crazy things. I mean, this is not the first time we've seen him do something that's completely absurd. The Dolly and the bus, that was, honestly, why did he not get arrested for that? Like, why? Was it because he was Conor McGregor and you can't cancel a big fight like that? Or was it...
I don't remember. I don't know, because I feel like once like the law gets into it, there's not a lot you can do. So I think what happened was he just took a plea.
Because they dismissed the case.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what happened, but I mean, it wasn't just poof, went away. You know, there was some things that had to be done.
Because, I mean, there's a big what if there of, you know, if he did actually hit Khabib, his life could be looking very different. He may not even be a trainer right now. It's just, he really made shockwaves in the UFC, good and bad. Like, there were a lot of things that he said and did in the UFC, good or bad, that had, but the thing is, the bad things seemed to make the UFC more popular because they were very interested. Okay, what's this guy going to say next? Like, what's this crazy dude going to say next?
He's polarizing.
He's
very polarizing.
And I was really hoping he would fight this year, but I just don't see it happening, guys. I really don't. Like, it's just so far away for him, in my opinion. I just don't think he's training. I don't think he's training. I think he's just partying.
Why would you, though? Why would you train when I think it's safe to say that he's peaked out. He's reached his max.
He's done. I mean,
what can he do to outdo what he's already done? What can he do?
He's done because there's no, especially when the law gets into it, I just don't think there's anything that he can really do at this point. And, you know, the thing that I said earlier was Dana pulled him out of the USADA poll, which, you know, obviously is the hardest drug testing policy in all of sports. And there's a reason for that, because Dana knows that Conor McGregor is juiced up. He's taken a bunch of things to get him healed from that broken leg injury. I mean, and you've seen the pictures. He's huge, 195. He's got veins popping out of his shoulders. Yeah. He's just not natural at all. Like it's super easy to look at that and go, okay, he's on steroids. He definitely is, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not a natural weight for him at all. Like that's the heaviest he's ever been in his entire career, not even close.
I remember when I first saw the picture, I thought it was a Conor McGregor lookalike to like kind of
I thought
troll.
It was a Photoshop.
Yeah, I thought it was just like someone trolling, saying like, "Oh, this is the new Conor." And then I looked at more pictures. I'm like, "Whoa, this guy looks juiced.
It just seems like Dana's kind of messing up his name as well, in my opinion. First of all, he's covering Conor, taking him out of the USADA pool. Then he's not signing Francis Ngannou. He literally just give him his money, man. Just give him his money. I know Ngannou turned down the largest contract in UFC history at heavyweight, but come on, just give the man his money. I mean, you don't see knockout power ever like France. You don't see a talent like Francis Ngannou ever. And that Francis John Jones fight should have happened. That's Dana's fault. That's all Dana's fault. That fight fell through because of Dana. And it's super frustrating because Ngannou was he was an up and coming star in the UFC, and to see him go, that's huge. That is ginormous because you see PFL getting involved now. They want to sign him where Jake Paul signed. That PFL is going to be some competition for Dana in the UFC, and it's all because of Dana. He's just making himself look bad.
Yeah, and the UFC's had so many great fighters, but all these other organizations did not have. I mean, they probably had great fighters, but they were never polarizing like all the UFC fighters have been. And I think we're seeing a point where we're going to see a drift. We're going to see almost a volcano, let's say, of explosions with the UFC. With everything going on with the UFC, all these fighters, whether it's pay, whether it's disputes, whether it's not getting these fights, they're going to pull out and they're going to go to these other companies and make a name with those companies. Those companies are going to make a name for themselves, and the UFC is going to have way more competition than they're going to have to try to keep up. They're going to have to try to keep up, whether it's higher fighter pay, whether it's letting them do their own advertisements like they would in boxing. We are going to see, in my opinion, slowly or quickly, we're going to see the downfall of the UFC.
I 100% agree with you, and I think Jake Paul is behind this as well. Too. There's a reason why he signed with the PFL. He's got some strategy to it. Number one, he wants to take away money from Dana White. That's his ultimate goal with all of this, because you know how much he hates Dana. He doesn't like him at all.
A little petty, but yeah.
It's a little more than an argument at this point.
Yeah.
He's starting to mess with the money. And then he invested in his co-company. What was it called? What was that? I can't remember what that company was called. But anyways, it's like he is trying to get in Dana's head, but now he's affecting his finances, which is a smart move. But Jake Paul is now starting something. He's starting an evolution where, MMA guys don't just have to, I have to go to the UFC to be the biggest thing. No, you don't. This is imagine if the CFL, the Canadian Football League, was as big as the PFL compared to the NFL. Imagine if the NFL had competition.
I can see it. Yeah. Imagine, let's just say something's going on with football players, right? Let's say Tyreek Hill wants to go to the Canadian Football League. Let's say, Tom Brady retired. Let's just say he didn't retire. He went to the Canadian Football League.
Let's say,
Patrick Mahomes did as well. You're going to see way more viewers for the Canadian Football League because, especially in a sport like MMA, it's not a team. It's one individual guy that you're a fan of. So if you're a fan of that guy, strictly, let's say someone's just strictly a Ngannou fan, right? They're not going to keep watching the UFC. They're going to start watching the new promotion, the new MMA promotion.
Yeah.
And it's a lot different, It's all because of one person. So I really do see this being part of the slow downfall of the UFC.
Do you think it's going to be catastrophic for the UFC? Do you think it's going to completely crumble the organization? Do you think it'll ever get to a point where all the big time fighters will leave and go somewhere else?
Not necessarily, no, because I think once you get to a certain point, Dana's going to have to budge. He's going to be like, okay, look, the guys that are staying here, look, I'm going to start giving you more money. You want more fights? I'll give you more fights. And he's going to try to make it more appetizing for the new fighters that come along. So when I mean by downfall of the UFC, I don't mean that they're just going to be completely washed away by competition. I still think they're going to be there and they're going to be prominent.
Yeah.
But the thing is there's going to be way other promotions that people are going to like way more.
Yeah, it's just going to be different.
It is. It will be different.
It's not going to be like we've seen before. Like you see with boxing, it's a little different because you don't have, you got like, Premier Boxing or WBC, like they're all different organizations. They're not the same. So like, I feel like it could turn into kind of where boxing is now, where I think it could be a bad thing for mixed martial arts because it'll be easier to avoid the big stars. Like now you see the UFC, that's where everybody goes. But if guys keep like, let's say Charles Oliveira, like Volkanovski and Islam all leave, but then you still got all these guys like Michael Chandler, Patty, Cyril Gane, you still got all these stars over here in the UFC, but they have 3 other stars that leave. It's just going to be harder for more stars to match up.
Absolutely.
Because Dana does create those matchups. And I don't know who creates the matchups in those other leagues. I really don't. I know for sure they don't have a guy like Dana. So, but Dana's been making headlines a lot, good and bad. And I want to have your take on him smacking his wife in the club. Like, do you think how bad do you think that looked?
There's a couple factors that play into this. First of all, let me make this straight. There's absolutely no excuse for hitting a woman. I really don't think so. I really don't. Now I know there's other factors to play in. He was drunk. I did see in the video that she hit him first. But at the end of the day, I think it was wrong of him to do that. Especially, it doesn't matter about size, but if we're going to put size into it, he's a lot bigger, he's a lot bigger guy. Her slap compared to his slap is way more different.
Yeah.
It's way different. And
do you think he should have been punished for that? Do you think he should have been suspended, not allowed to operate the UFC?
Well, let me ask you something, and this is just me partially not knowing, but who was going to do this?
That's what I was just about to say. Because isn't Dana the guy who has got to make that call?
I think so.
I mean,
there's no one over him, unless they have a committee inside the UFC, which I don't know if they do or not. But
okay, that's one thing I really wanted to touch on is the fighters union, because Jake Paul has been really heavy on that. And after you saw the bet that Anderson Silva and Jake Paul made, where Anderson Silva would have to collide with Jake Paul in the fighters union, which he is now a part of, which is a big deal because you got probably the greatest middleweight of all time right in Jake's corner. That is huge for him because that brings him so much more leverage that he really didn't have before that. And I just think, all these leagues, the NBA, NFL, they all have players unions. They all have players associations. Players can have a vote and say, besides the league, if part of the commissioner and all those guys. And I think it's very important if the UFC wants to be relevant and to keep fighters happy, that is something that Dana really needs to integrate in the future, is a fighters union where fighters can have a say in what happens, pay, healthcare. And by the way, the fact that UFC does not have healthcare is absolutely disgraceful. Like you look at all these guys that have, very catastrophic brain injuries, can't even function after they're done with the UFC. It's truly sad.
It is.
Like they don't even remember who their family is. Like you need to have insurance for those people so they can get the proper care. Because most of the time, these fighters are spending tons and tons of money on their own camps. UFC does not pay for any of that. They have to have sponsors, and they have to use that money from their sponsors to pay for that camp. They have to pay for their trainers. They have to pay for their strength and conditioning coach. They have to pay for everything. It's not like the NFL where everything's pretty much given to you. The resources are there. UFC does not have those resources at all.
I think with the MMA, especially UFC, you have to have these things in place. I remember, and
it's just great. I can't
remember this guy's name, but he was a Puerto Rican boxer. Fight, was going okay. Super great boxer. He was really starting to come up, and somehow, some way, he actually got hit in the head a little bit. Didn't look like a huge bad blow.
Oh, wait. I think I know who you're talking about. Was he like in the hospital and he was like, God.
I forget his name.
Was the fight in America? That might help me a little bit.
I can't remember.
Because I think I know who you're talking about because I've heard this story before where Did he did he die? Did he pass
He
away?
didn't die, no, but he's paraplegic. He's in a wheelchair, can't really talk, can't. I think he can, move his hands and move his eyes a little bit. It's something so little, and it didn't even look like a huge hit, but it was just the right spot at the right moment at the right time. And it is disgraceful that you're having these fighters pay so much to compete.
It's ridiculous.
And don't get much in return. And that's drawn back to my first point where, okay, UFC won't do it. Well, guess what? One promotion will, or another promotion that has it, they'll do it. And that, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it'll be the UFC anymore. That's not going to be the brand to fight for.
I think that's a big reason why Francis Ngannou did indeed leave the UFC.
I do too, and especially when it comes to someone being in power. Now, don't get me wrong, Dana is amazing at like matchmaking, at putting two fighters together and making a good fight. He really is. But by the same token, when one guy kind of has so much power, and it's his own company, I get it. But I hope there's at least a council in place to help also make decisions, because if Dana's top dog, no matter what, it doesn't for me it doesn't matter how much money I get offered. I'm not going to fight for a guy who doesn't like me, won't look out for me, won't be there for me, especially in the fighting game. I'm not going to do it. I can go to another promotion, possibly get paid more, and have them look after me better than Dana would.
Because I like how you bring up, he doesn't like fighters. He hated Francis.
Yeah.
Hated him. And he would always call Francis egotistical. He would always say he's out of his mind. He's out of his league. Like, come on, buddy. Like, the world heavyweight champion here. Like, you need to take care of him. You need to pay him. Do you know for his last title fight against Cyril Gane, he made $750,000.
Yep.
Why is the UFC heavyweight champion making that money?
Yeah.
He should be making the most in that division.
Mm-hmm.
He should be the highest paid UFC fighter ever. It shouldn't even be close. And now he's going to go make money. He's going to go box Tyson Fury. That is what's going to happen now. It's very possible that it's actually inevitable that's going to happen.
And that'll be his biggest paycheck he's ever gotten.
Awesome.
That'll be the biggest paycheck he's gotten.
Okay, let's talk about Tyson Fury. First of all, he's impossible to hit. Do you think Francis will even be able to land that haymaker bomb on him since he's so elusive?
Yeah, I do. Now, for predictions, I'm going to have to think about that one, but that'll be such a good fight. Let me give you this scenario here. So they could box, obviously. Yep.
But Tyson Fury is very big on using MMA gloves, boxing rules. He wants to do that, and so does Francis. How different do you see that fight going if they do MMA gloves versus them just boxing normally?
I feel like that would be different using MMA gloves. I think it would be less drastic for them to use MMA gloves than boxing gloves, because MMA gloves are a lot lighter. Boxing gloves, people that may have not boxed don't realize, but when you have a pair of boxing gloves on, it feels good, you feel loose, but after a while, once you start fighting, they get heavy. Your hands start to drop them. They get really heavy
quick.
Yes, and I remember when I sparred a lot. First round was good. Second round, I started dropping them. Coach would be like, "Yo, put your hands up." It's just natural. They get heavy. Now, I think it would be such a drastic move for boxing gloves. I think Ngannou would be, definitely. He would be the one.
Do you think that would give him an advantage though, because he is used to MMA gloves?
Yes,
and Tyson?
Yeah, it would give him a bit of an advantage.
But actually, I did forget. Tyson did do bare knuckle at one point, so he is kind of familiar with no glove.
I think with it being MMA gloves but boxing rules, I think it is the most even playing field you could have it for two totally different fighters, one boxer, one MMA fighter. I think that is the best case scenario when it comes to even playing field. That way the hands don't get heavy, but also for Tyson, it's still the same rules. He doesn't have to worry about takedowns, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, none of that. It's just straight up boxing. So I think it's the best even playing field you can have.
Do you think it would be safe for them to do 12 rounds if they do MMA gloves?
12
Honestly,
rounds.
for me, I don't think it would be.
12 rounds.
That'd be taxing. I think 8 rounds would be good enough.
8 rounds. I think 8 rounds.
And that's going to be brutal too.
Yeah. I think 8 rounds. But honestly, with these two fighters, I think we'd go all 8.
Yeah, I don't, because you got the UFC heavyweight champion. Well, former now. And then you got the WBC world heavyweight champion, one of the greatest boxers ever lived. Honestly, I might go on record and say this. Tyson Fury is the greatest boxer that's ever stepped in the ring. He's the greatest boxer to ever step in a ring. And I'm going to say this because, I know you're giving me that look, but I'm going to say this because he's so elusive for his size.
Mm-hmm.
He's like Floyd Mayweather as a heavyweight. He's very good at counter punching. He's very technical. He has great endurance. He's just impossible to hit. You would think a guy that looking that fat, with that amount of fat on him, would be able to be hit easily, but he's not. And he has very elite footwork. I mean, he's just so technical and so skilled. He never gets tired. Like in his last fight, he went 12 rounds. It looked like he could have won another 7 rounds. And I've seen the videos with him. He's tough as can be. He's relentless. He's in sparring. He's got this smaller guy. He's kind of just playing around with him, not even throwing hands. And he's like, punch me in the rib, mate. Punch me in the rib, mate. Harder. He's like, break it. He's just tough, man. He's tough competitor.
I'm not disputing he wouldn't be top 10, heck, even top 5. But he's not better than Ali. He's not better than Tyson. He's not better than
That's
Mayweather.
a debate. I think if you look at the way Mike Tyson fought, I think obviously it would be a tough challenge for Tyson Fury. I mean, all these guys are Hall of Famers. They're all-time greats.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a great fight either way. But I just see Tyson Fury coming out because I've watched the fight with Deontay Wilder where he got knocked down 3-4 times, got back up, still won by knockout round 11. I mean, that's tough. And you keep getting up, keep pushing. I don't know. I've seen Mike Tyson get knocked out, and I've seen Mike Tyson vulnerable. I've never seen Tyson Fury vulnerable. And first of all, the difference between Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, and Tyson Fury is Tyson Fury has 0 losses. He's got 0.
I know.
Just like Floyd Mayweather, he's got 0 losses. That's the difference for me. That's why I think he's the greatest. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Now, record can go a long way. You can kind of debate, like he didn't fight many good fighters. But Tyson always fights the elite of the elite. Always.
And he did fight Deontay Wilder 3 times.
Yeah, he fought Deontay Wilder 3 times.
And that's
he beat him twice.
Yeah.
Like that's
first one was a tie, right?
Yeah, it was a draw. I think Wilder is one of the most underrated boxers that I've ever seen, in my opinion.
I think a lot of people give him credit, but
But since he is overshadowed by Fury, he doesn't get the respect I feel he deserves. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I think he does still get a lot of respect. I think he's such a great boxer.
He's a bronze bomber. He's got bombs, man.
Yeah, but we can't go off track. I still don't think he's better than Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali or Floyd Mayweather. And
okay,
that's a hot take.
But why though? Like, why would you sit here and say, okay, would you think it would be an easy victory for Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson versus Fury? Do you think it would be?
No, because they're not in the same weight classes.
But they're all heavyweights. How are they not in the same weight class? They're all heavyweights. Every single one of them is a heavyweight.
Yeah, I was thinking something else.
The only difference is Mike Tyson's just smaller.
Yeah.
Now Muhammad Ali, he's got reach. He's elusive as well. I think that would be a little tougher for him.
Muhammad Ali was way more elusive. He was so much more elusive.
That's why I think Muhammad Ali would give Fury a tougher time, but I still think Fury would pull it out.
And I think Mike Tyson had so much more power than Tyson Fury.
He does. It'd be very interesting to see because he does have a little bit, he could give him more body shots because he is shorter. And Mike Tyson likes to get close up with people. That'd be interesting, man. Yeah. Honestly, Tyson Fury, just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Everything he does.
I'll give him credit. Yeah.
He's an unbelievable guy. And another all-time great I really want to touch on. We both agreed that he's the greatest UFC fighter of all time. John Jones is coming back. He signed an 8-year or not 8-year, 8-fight deal with the UFC. So he's gonna have 8 fights.
Yeah, I don't know who he would really fight though. I mean, like maybe a couple good ones, but
I've heard that there's a possibility that if Francis, if he doesn't sign an exclusive deal with somebody and he just goes and boxes, that he could potentially come back.
I hope so. I
He could.
really do. I think that would be the toughest fight John Jones ever fights.
I'm just so upset that fight's not happening.
I know.
I really want it to happen, but Cyril Gane's still a really good test for John. I think they're very similar. I think they're more similar than different. I mean, they love to kick, and they love to stand up. Like those are kind of their specialties. How do you see that fight playing out? Do you think that'll be do you think it'll be as close as the Francis fight, or do you think John will kind of run away with it?
John's going to run away with it. I don't know what round, but I think he's going to knock him out for sure.
I would say 2nd round knockout, 3rd round knockout.
Yeah.
I'd give him. I mean, Cyril's a tough guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd say 4th. I'd say 4th round.
He did go the distance with Francis, but I mean, remember Francis did have 2 torn ACLs during that fight, so he really wasn't that guy. There was a reason why he was taking him to the ground all the time, because he couldn't stand up. There's a difference. John can stand up.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see John at heavyweight.
Yeah.
To see that. Oh, my goodness. I honestly don't know how it's going to play out, because he's been a different weight class, and this is just such a different test for him.
So let me ask you something. So let's say he loses. Would you still consider him the best UFC fighter?
No.
No?
He's got to win. This is make or break for him.
Yeah.
If John loses, man, I don't know. I don't think he's the greatest.
Yeah.
I really don't.
And he's been away from the sport for a while.
He hasn't fought in like 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. So, I mean, he could have been just training this whole time, and he's still not rusty. But
I haven't, to be honest, like, I don't really know what John is going to look like, so I can't say too much. I've just seen, how big he is. I've seen him lifting weights. I've seen him hit the pads a few times, but I haven't really seen him, like, in the cage, doing all that training. I just haven't seen it yet. So I'm like kind of uncertain about it a little bit, but I still think he's going to win. I have ultimate confidence that he's going to have his swagger back, and everything's just going to be back to the way it was.
Yeah.
And he can be, it'll be interesting to see who he fights after Cyril Gane, because that division, I just really don't see anyone that can really give him a hard time.
I can see him moving down, or someone moving up.
Okay, the light heavyweight division is the worst division in all of UFC.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. Where's he going to go fight? He's going to go fight Jamal Hill. Really? He barely beat a 45-year-old Glover.
Well, with an 8-fight deal, that's going to be a long time too, though. There's going to be some time that passes, so someone might move up. Who knows? But do you think these will be the last fights of his career?
Yes. I think obviously. I think he's getting old. He's like 32, 33 years old. I just don't know how much, because 8 fights is a lot. That's at least 3 years in my book, because I don't see him fighting twice a year, just in my opinion. I could see him not finishing out his contract and kind of just asking for a buyout. I could see that happening. But he's got a lot. I feel like he's got a lot to prove, because this is a new challenge for him. He's definitely proven to be the best light heavyweight of all time. But let's see. This is going to prove if he's the GOAT. Yeah. This is the ultimate test right here for him.
It would have been even more of a test if it was Ngannou, but it's it's okay. Goodness, we can't get that.
It makes me so angry, but
we'll see. We don't know. We'll see.
So you still think Volk's going to win?
Absolutely, I will. Absolutely, I do. Yes.
I will say otherwise, and I think I was saying before that it would be a closer fight, but I think Islam's just going to maul him.
No.
I think he's going to maul him, because in Dagestan, those camps are intense.
They are. They
are very intense. And I just see the endurance that Islam does have. I just don't see. Did you see that Charles Oliveira? He got like a really bad neck injury from his squeeze in that fight.
No, I didn't see that.
It was bad. I think he's still scheduled to fight in May, but I heard he hurt it in training, but then he got it hurt more in the Islam fight. But Islam is just a different beast, man. I just don't see him. I think he's going to be champion for a long time, and I don't think he will lose a fight until they do circle around to that Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev rematch.
And And I think so. Let's say Islam he's just almost as dominant as Khabib, right? I think this will further prove that Khabib is one of the best fighters because it's his protege. But I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I think Volkanovski, every fight is the underdog. Oh, there's no way that Volk can beat him. I think it's going to be the same thing. And at the very least, he is not going to get mauled by Islam. He is not going to get mauled because Volkanovski's defense is one of the best. It really is. And I feel like every single time people sleep on him. And so I think, you know what? He might not win. Who knows? He might not. But I guarantee if he doesn't win, it's still going to be a crazy close fight.
I think it's going to be a given if he can't if Islam can't get him to the ground, then I could definitely see Volk winning this because Volk is a significantly better striker. It's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's super drastic. Islam can't swing like that. I mean, he's just going to be shooting for takedowns a lot. If he's getting beat up, he's just going to be like, "Oh crud, like I got to go take him down. Like I have to cuz I got to regain some confidence a little bit but the minute he gets him on the ground, the minute Volk's legs are above his head, he's done. Yeah. He's absolutely done. He's gonna smash his face. Like all those guys in Russia and all those guys over there, they think they have smash mentality. They have smash mentality. Like he's gonna change his face.
Dagestan is notorious for
it's intense, man.
Their wrestling, and I know that
they're the future of the sport. Yeah. They really are. They're the future of mixed martial arts.
Little kids go to those camps and learn at a crazy young age.
They kick stone for fun and growing up. Like that's intense, dude.
They're intense. But Volk, I think, will win this fight.
They have different shins over there. They have literally stone shins.
Yeah, but you don't use your shins for takedowns. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm just saying, like the toughness and
they got
just like looking at they're running up mountains. Like they are passing by goats in training camps and sheep.
Yeah, I know. It's intense. It's really intense.
And it's like cold. Like it's like -10 there.
Yeah.
And then you got Hasbullah in there.
The greatest of all time.
Okay, I'm just going to bring up something kind of funny. Do you think, because I've heard Dana talk about, kind of tease it a little bit, do you think a baby fight would ever happen? Like with Hasbullah and someone else?
No, that'll disgrace the UFC. If the UFC does not have a downfall, that will cause it. For sure. No way. No shot.
I think that'd be hilarious.
It'd be funny, but yeah, no, I don't see that happening. That'd be funny. That would be.
I'm February 26th. Tommy Fury, Jake Paul. It's official. Finally. Tommy, please do not pull out. I swear to God, if you pull out of this fight, dude, I'm going to lose my mind. I was supposed to buy tickets 2 years ago when you were supposed to fight him, but Tyson said you're going to fight him with broken rib. You pulled out because you had a broken rib. You're a weenie. And when you were in Dubai, after your fight, you acted like you were going to get out of the ring and fight Jake Paul. You're not going to get out of the ring. Did you see his dad? Like, yeah. He's like, I'm Mike Tyson, the bare knuckle man.
Yeah.
He's like screaming at him and like, like, he's embarrassing. He's so embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Johnny Fury he's so embarrassing.
This will be, so with this fight, this will prove whether Jake Paul is an actual boxer or if he's not.
Yes.
This will prove it. I don't care what anyone says after this fight. If Jake Paul wins, I don't care what anyone says. Jake Paul will officially be a boxer.
I think Jake Paul isn't officially a boxer now because he did box Anderson Silva.
But what I'm saying is to the mainstream world.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think, I mean, you still have to fight. You still have to, if you're a boxer, you're still going to have matches.
Yeah.
But I'm saying I think it will be foolish if you still consider Jake Paul not a boxer if he beats Tyson Fury.
Yeah,
not Tyson Fury.
The thing about Tommy
Fury.
Tommy. The thing about Tommy is like, he has a 8-0 record, but that record means nothing.
Yeah.
He's first of all, his first fight was against a guy who was 10-102.
Mm-hmm.
Are you actually kidding me?
Yeah.
You're joking. And then after that, he fought 3 guys with 0 wins. What?
Yeah.
Are you serious? It took him 6 fights to fight a guy who was undefeated and he was 2-0.
Yeah.
That's it? Are you joking right now? And Tommy's like, oh, yeah, like, I'm going to wake this kid up. No, you're not.
I mean, he might.
He's not.
You don't know.
Jake Paul is going to flatline this guy. He's going to make him a meme. He's going to put him on the ground. Tommy Fury will be laying on the canvas after this fight is over. I am telling you right now.
But Tommy's got some power. He's got some good combos. I don't think it's a landslide.
But Tommy, his last couple fights, he's won by decision.
Yeah.
Last 3 fights.
Don't get me wrong. I think Jake Paul's going to win. But I'm just saying, I don't.
Look at Anthony Taylor. His first good fight in the United States, Tommy Fury's first good fight, if you guys don't know what I'm specifying. He could have knocked him out. Anthony Taylor's not a great boxer, but he went to decision with a bum, in my opinion. And then the last couple guys he fought went to decision with bums. They're not good. Like, who are those guys? Like, I don't even know who he's fighting. And then and he's fighting on a Deji undercard. That's a disgrace to the Fury name, honestly. Like, seriously, like, Tommy, if you're listening to this, if you lose this fight, Tyson is going to say, you're not a Fury anymore. You're just Tommy. You're just Tommy. You're not a Fury anymore. That's what's going to happen. His last name is going to be stripped from him.
It's going to be disowned.
There's a lot on the line for him here.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
He loses to quote-unquote YouTube star. But that's the thing about Jake Paul. He deceives people with that.
Yeah.
YouTube star. He ain't no YouTube star. Not anymore. The way he trains is so intense.
Yep.
Like, in camp. And now he's going to be fighting in the MMA eventually. That is... I don't really know what to expect for his MMA career.
Yeah.
I saw him training jiu-jitsu. He's got some work, but it looks decent. Like, how do you think his MMA career is going to pan out?
I think it's going to be blown up, kind of like his boxing career was, because no one expected Jake Paul to actually be decent and good at boxing. And, people say, oh, he's just a YouTube fighter, whatever. Volkanovski was a rugby player before doing MMA. He didn't even get into MMA when he was young. He played rugby and is like, hey, I want to do something different. Let's do MMA. And he is such a great fighter. So that excuse that he's just a YouTube star, he's just this, he's just that. No, he's a boxer. He puts in time. He puts in work. Now, as for the MMA career, you're
stepping into a different world.
You're going from one weapon and defending against one weapon.
Now he's got to learn 3 more weapons. He's got to learn jiu-jitsu. He's got to learn... He does have a wrestling background.
Yeah.
He did wrestle in high school, but he's still got to refresh on that a little bit. Like, there's just so much more he's got to learn. He's got the boxing down. The thing about him and MMA is he's going to be able to outbox a lot of these guys, in my opinion. But as soon as he goes to the ground, that's where we're going to really see what he's made out of. But imagine he's grounding and pounding.
Yeah.
He's going to be dangerous if he can do that at an elite level.
You know what I'm thinking? What if Jake Paul went to just whatever promotion other than the UFC? Because he just signed with one, didn't he?
Yeah, PFL, he signed I don't know how long it is. I think it was a 3-fight deal, I want to say. 3 or 5. Don't count me on this. But, yeah, he wants to do, first of all, he wants to box Nate Diaz, and then he wants to have Nate Diaz fight him in the cage. That's what he wants to do. Imagine if,
let's just, not to compare, let's just imagine, what if Jake Paul is almost like the next Conor McGregor with another promotion? Imagine the reaction from the UFC and Dana. Imagine the impact that'll have on the UFC.
If he starts winning
so many pay-per-views.
If he wins, it's going to be a bad day for the UFC.
Yeah.
If he starts winning,
I'm telling you, bro, this is low-key like the Roman Empire, where you have different little areas of people attacking your empire.
I just can't believe I'm watching this unfold, because this is on it. Like, when Jake Paul came into the sport, everyone thought he was a joke. You don't have any respect for the sport of boxing or combat sports in general. Then he comes in trying to, fight for fighter pay. It's like, you're not even in the UFC.
Yeah.
Now he's going into their world and he's going to continue to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Just going to earn him more and more respect.
And then fighters are going to see how much he's making. It's like, I want that money.
Yeah, exactly.
It literally is like the Roman Empire, where it's like you're having all these groups attacking you with different things at one time. I think it's going to partially crumble the UFC.
It's just because you don't. Because first of all, the UFC makes billions of dollars. They make a lot of money, and they don't give any of their fighters none of that.
They're not even allowed to sponsor their own ads, to make deals with other companies.
They can't wear a certain type of shorts.
Exactly, you can't.
What is it?
That's
Reebok?
bizarre.
Are they signed with Reebok? Is that correct? I think it's.
Reebok?
I think it's like Reebok. I don't know. I don't know what brand, but they have to wear a certain brand
They
of
at least
shorts.
used to have Reebok.
Yeah, they have to.
If it's
They
not
have to wear a
changed.
certain brand. They can't. If you're signed with Nike, you can't wear your endorser.
Yeah,
That prevents you from making money because you're not. Well, first of all, when you wear it on national television, you're advertising their product because people will be like, "Oh, what's that? What's that little swoosh on the shorts there?"
Yeah.
If you don't know what Nike is, you're clueless.
Yeah.
But like, just for an example, like he's like, "Oh, what's that?" Like even on the shorts, like you can't really have like really low. You can't have logos on your shorts either, which actually be a pretty big thing because in basketball, overseas, like even in the NBA now. Before the NBA did it, overseas would have like a big like advertising logo on their jerseys with the number overseas. Now the NBA, they'll have like the Orlando Magic, they got like Disney, or the Miami Heat, they had like FTX, but they don't have that anymore. But yeah, just like they had sponsors on like their jerseys, and imagine if they could have it on their shorts. It would help them make so much more money to be able to pay for their camps, do all this extra stuff that Dana's not funding. He should be funding it. I think they should give 50% of the revenue the UFC makes to all the fighters. I think they should split it up. That would be the smart course of action, in my opinion, if they were doing that.
Yeah, and like I said, I see it. I see one thing. I understand if it's from a pay-per-view perspective. If you're trying to divide that, I get that. But I find it more concerning that you're not even allowing your fighters to, sport their own brands or sport their own endorsements.
Yeah.
That's different. And you are having these companies come in and you're saying, yeah, put your stuff on our shorts. And I don't know if he's splitting the money, but I'm assuming he's not. He's taking all that money for himself and for the company.
He's taking it himself.
So
and he's only paying the stars. Like I think it's $15,000 is the minimum amount you make in a UFC fight. That's nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing. And all the time, you put your body through so much in camp. You can get injured at any time in camp. Camp is intense. Camp is sometimes harder than the fight itself. It is. Can you explain to me like the training of MMA and like how difficult it actually is and how taxing it is on your body?
It's a lot because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's boxing or it's jiu-jitsu. I did a little bit of Muay Thai, but not enough to, be super comfortable about talking all about that. I know a lot more about boxing and jiu-jitsu, and you do not understand. I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying in general, it's so hard to understand.
I really don't understand though, because I'm not in an MMA gym. You have been in an MMA gym. So explain to me, somebody like me who doesn't understand, like what that is like.
If you're solely just talking about the training aspect, first of all, you're using almost every muscle in your body, especially jiu-jitsu. That shocked me first. Whenever I first got into it, I did not understand how many muscles were involved in that.
Yeah.
Whether someone's laying on you or you're laying on them, you're just using every single fiber of your being, trying to get out of something, thinking, calculating what you're going to do next to try to get around that person, to try to get them into submission. There's a lot that goes into it. With boxing, it's the same thing. You're trying to, get the perfect form, the perfect footwork. You're punching these heavy bags. You're doing combos. Doing a 15-second combo wears you out, and doing it over and over and over again. And then going to practice it on someone else who's doing the same thing to you. And that's just the training aspect of it. Then you go through, trying to cut weight. You go through some other aspects of it. Your overall health, overall weight training, overall cardio. There's so much that goes into it, and I didn't have I didn't cut weight too much. But you look at some of these fighters, they're in sweatsuits at 4 a.m.
Yeah, man. The weight cuts are. I mean, you're almost killing yourself to a point. You're getting to the point where you're almost dying. You're getting as close as you can get to death at certain points because, yeah, you are dehydrating yourself and you're not really eating a lot because you got to make your weight. Like with Patty, I just don't know how Patty Pimlet does what he does. He goes from 155 pounds and then he goes to 200. He's eating burgers, whatever you want. And then he cuts all that weight. He's got a 6-pack like a week before the fight. It's like, bro, you were literally just fat like 2 days ago when I saw you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, explain how unhealthy is that really? Like, because I heard somebody talking about that it affects your kidneys. You can have a lot of issues with your kidneys. Like, how unhealthy is that?
Well, I'm not going to make too many opinions just because I'm definitely not a medical expert on this. And I don't fully know exactly what it does to the body. But I do know it really isn't good for you. Especially, I'm going to even say sometimes cutting isn't good for you because there's so much that goes into it. Not only physically, getting in a sweatsuit, training in a sweatsuit, then right after getting into a sauna, you still don't cut that much weight. Well, guess what? You're getting in a hot bathtub with towels all around you and limiting your food intake, limiting your water intake. Not only does that hurt you physically in a way, but mentally, that drains you.
Is there any way that they can make the weight cutting process easier?
I think the only way to change is to be a little bit more relaxed on the weight itself and the weight class.
Because now, like, if you miss weight by 0.1 pounds, you can't do it. Like, you remember when Charles Oliveira missed weight for the fight against Justin Gaethje? He was off by like 0.5 pounds. He still weighed 155. I don't think a 0.5 pounds should really matter, in my opinion.
And exactly. And I want you, and you have to kind of place yourself in their shoes because it's really hard to imagine. But just imagine you've been training for so many months, right? Whenever you don't eat something, whenever you're on a diet, you crave it. You crave something. Crave cake, crave brownie, crave chicken. I don't care. You crave something. Imagine you craving, denying yourself that, going to the gym every single day, barely drinking water, getting in a sauna when you're already so dehydrated, thirsty, parched, getting on that scale and still missing it.
That's defeating.
It's extremely defeating. Not so much on your mental health.
I mean, just imagine,
you go into dark places. You definitely go into dark places.
That's because it's crazy. I heard this guy talking about, he had a craving for water so much that he called his wife. He was in Dubai for a fight, and he called his wife, and he was like, "Just pour Fanta or pour Coke into a glass. I just want to see it." That's how thirsty this guy was.
Yeah. It's like when you like wake up at like 4 a.m. and you're just so like you have to run to the fridge to go get like cold water. It's like your throat's dry. Imagine that, but getting into a hot bathtub with towels all around you, and then getting out of the bathtub and getting steamed.
Yeah,
it's
crazy to really see these guys do that while they're training and doing all this other stuff. And then after you make weight, you got plenty of time to, gain weight. Like Alex Pereira, he gained like 20, 30 pounds for that Izzy fight. He weighed in 185 and then he's like weighing 210. Like if you watch that fight, you can see, Izzy is a natural 185. He doesn't really need to cut much weight at all. He can kind of just get on the scale and be fine. But for Pereira, he's got to cut. And he's a natural light heavyweight. It's going to be very interesting to see that rematch as well. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that because Pereira is, he's not good at defending wrestling. I want to see him against a wrestler. In my opinion, I think he will beat Izzy again, and he's going to go fight a guy like Robert Whittaker, who is going to be a real test for this guy because, I don't think he doesn't want to wrestle. He just wants to. hit you with that left hook and just knock your head off.
Yeah.
That's what he's going in there to do. And it's very interesting to see him go from 185 to weighing that much. Like, that's crazy. You gain 20 pounds in one night. Like, how do you even gain that much weight in one night before the fight? Like, how do you even do that? You just have to eat a ridiculous amount, or
and drink a lot, because you have to think too. Liquid is so much heavier than food is. It's so much heavier, so you're probably trying to replenish your what you call it. You're trying to replenish.
Do they test fighters after, like drug test fighters after you make weight?
I don't know.
Can you do supplements and stuff like that afterwards? Since that, because I know they test before the fight, but I'm guessing they don't test after you make weight.
I don't think so.
So you can probably do all those supplements and still be, it's sanctioned cheating, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What weight cutting and all that, stuff. It's sanctioned cheating.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I'm not
regulated,
sure.
but it's not really regulated.
Yeah,
like you can do what you want to a certain degree.
But at the same time, like, let's say you do, is it gonna have much effect, or doesn't it take time?
I mean, it just depends, like, what weight class you're fighting at, and like what's your natural weight. If you're a natural 170 and you're going down and fighting at 145, then that's going to be a little tougher of a weight cut for you.
Yeah.
But if you're going from a heavyweight to a light heavyweight, then that's, not as drastic. It still could be tough on your body because you're not used to not carrying that weight, but it's different for every weight class. Because UFC and boxing is a different weight class for like 2-3 pounds.
Yeah. Like
Canelo Alvarez can fight at like 155, 157, 159. And then you still have guys like Gervonta Davis, he'll fight at 145, 147, but he's still fighting for another belt.
Yeah.
And it's very different. UFC, I wish they had more weight classes in the UFC.
Yeah. But if you have more weight classes, less good fights, in my opinion.
Yeah, I that's debatable because you wouldn't really know until you apply it, but that would be interesting to kind of see them take that route. But there's going to be a lot of things the UFC is going to have to really do in this year, especially.
Yeah.
This is a big year for the UFC, in my opinion. Not just fights, but organizational wise,
in a positive way or in a negative way?
I'm saying in a good way and a bad way. There's a lot of good fights this year. There's a lot of great matchups that are going to happen, but as an organization, they really have to take that next step, and they really have to, put fighters first. I think that's going to be one thing they really are going to have to do this year.
Yeah, I agree.
But man, that was a great conversation.
That was a good conversation.
I appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah,
dude. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been another episode of the Take Podcast, you guys. I am your host, Jackson Burleson, and this is Jeremiah Kincaid. I appreciate you guys. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and we will see you guys in the next episode of the Take Podcast. Take care.